Hello, Delta 4 Charlie, you are first. Delta 4 Charlie, hold on a second. There's one more light I gotta turn on. I forgot to turn on one of the lights here. There we go, that's better. I'm back. It's late night. Hello everyone, I'm gonna give people a second to get into the stream before we go on here, sorry. Hey JC, how are you? Hello, Mr. Goody Jr. How's it going? Hello everyone, hope you're having a good evening. Let me just take one more second here before we begin. Let people join the stream and get organized here. Hello Jackie, hello Scott. Hello Tony Mack, good to see you. Long time no see indeed, Tony. I've been here, I don't know where you've been. Hey Scott. Hey Sarah, hey Douglas. Hey, you have your banana, good. Hey GM, hey Kalila, hey Dan Wolf. Hey, before I begin, while people are joining the stream, could you answer me this? So, you know, if this was like a super giant news story, like there were missiles flying, of course I would be in the Right Side studio. But I figured it's late night. I have to travel tomorrow, so I'm getting up early. So I just did this at home tonight. Would you prefer this be in the studio? Also, if it's in the studio, I can't see your chat. So, it's a quick poll as people join. Do you prefer a chat like this, that's late at night, be in the studio or just in my living room? Let's see. Let's see what people say. Maybe you have no opinion on this whatsoever, but I'm asking. Okay, I've been not matter. A couple okay, this is good. A couple doesn't matter. Another at home. So no one is saying I'm getting some prefer living room. One prefer if I just as long as I have clothes on. So we have one in the studio and like 15 at home and like 5 I don't care. Okay. Yeah. Normally, if it's during the day, it's in the studio, and if it's like a giant story like, President Obama is getting thrown in prison, I will go to the studio and do it, of course. But tonight was a special circumstance. So, anyways. And I sort of like this for this kind of thing because I can see your chats much more easily. I can't really do that in the studio. Anyways, so let me get to the story. Enough hemming and hawing here. So the story came out a couple hours ago. I didn't want to interrupt Nick Fuentes or Wayne Dupree, so I waited a little while to come on the air. But I want to talk about this story because this came out today, and I feel it's like. It's important, and it's not really being covered, and even when it's covered, it's not being covered in an important way. So this story that came out, I tweeted about it earlier. If you want to see the article, you can go to my Twitter. It's at Lookner, at Lookner. But the basic story is the Washington Post reported tonight, obviously through another leak from the intelligence community. What they reported is this: they reported that. Oh, let me take a step back. As you know, President Trump about a month ago made this tweet where he said Obama was wiretapping me, and everybody like freaked out, and all these people, especially on the left, were saying like there's no evidence of that. That's completely untrue. Nothing like that happened. There was a quote I wanted to pull up here from Clapper, where Clapper said, hold on guys, I want to get you the exact quote from Clapper. See what I did here? I had my article, and then I got rid of it. So let me open up my own article again that I was looking at and then get you the quote. Bear with me here. So James Clapper, who was the former director of national intelligence, said this. He told Meet the Press last month, U.S. law enforcement agencies did not have any FISA orders to monitor the communications of Trump, either as a candidate or as a president-elect or his campaign. So again, James Clapper said, no U.S. law enforcement agency had any FISA court orders to monitor, to wiretap President Trump or his campaign, or President Trump as a president or as candidate or as a candidate or his campaign. That's what he said. And James Comey said last month, I had this up too. Well, let me get that up. He said, sorry, let me pull this up here. He said, he had no information that supported President Trump's tweets. So, the left and these intelligence sources were saying, like, we have no information that what Trump said is true at all. Now, granted, if you interpret like President Trump is saying President Obama literally walked over to the White House and like placed a wire on his phones. That didn't happen, and I don't think President Trump meant to say that. But there's a more general interpretation of what President Trump was saying, which is, and whether or not he was saying this, there's this more general worry that some people on the right have had, people who support President Trump, and the worry is that there was some kind of wiretapping. When I say wiretapping, I mean electronic surveillance of communication. The worry is that there was some kind of surveillance going on by law enforcement in the Obama administration of President Trump's campaign, be it of President Trump or President Trump's associates. And that's this general worry that a number of people who've supported Trump have had, and people in the Trump camp have had, and we keep hearing these quotes from the left, from people like James Clapper, which is like, we have no evidence that anything like that is true. Now, they use this legalistic language, which we can talk about later, which maybe shows that what they're saying is right. But the general impression they're giving is like, there's no evidence any of this is true. So then tonight we get this Washington Post report, and what the Washington Post report says is that there's this person, Carter Page, who spent some time in working for the Trump campaign in some capacity. Now, the Trump campaign in March of last year said he was a foreign policy advisor. He attended some meetings that were like meetings of voluntary foreign policy advisors. He never actually met with President Trump, but he was working with the campaign in some loose capacity, dealing with foreign policy for a few months. So he was related to the campaign, and he was also talking to people in the campaign. What we find out is that in July of last year, this is right in the middle of the campaign, July of last year, the FBI requested and received a FISA court order. They received a FISA warrant. They requested and received a FISA court warrant to wiretap this person who had been working with the Trump campaign. And this was originally a 90-day wiretap, but this wiretap got renewed at least multiple times, so at least twice. So that takes you all the way through the end of the year. So from July until the end of the year, the FBI requested and got a FISA court, which is Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. So basically, assuming they didn't just get the warrant and sit on it, what we know is that the FBI requested and carried out surveillance on an American citizen who was working in some capacity for the Trump campaign and presumably was still talking to some people in the Trump campaign from July until the end of the campaign. That's reported by the Washington Post, which is a liberal paper. It's not a conservative paper. So we kept hearing how there was no evidence that anything President Trump said was true and that there were no wiretaps going on. And now we find out that the FBI requested and got a wiretap on someone who was doing some work, at least in March around that time, for the Trump campaign, and was probably talking to people he knew in the Trump campaign. And this was not, and this surveillance was not, oh, we're surveying like some other country's spies and they happened to talk to this guy. This request was made to wiretap this American guy. The request was about this guy. So to me, it's while James Comey and Jim is it Jim Clapper? My brain is freezing up. James Clapper, while they might have not technically said anything false when they were asked about this stuff, it seems pretty, what's the word I'm thinking of? Disingenuous to me. Like, they were misleading what they said, especially Clapper. Because remember, Clapper told Meet the Press, U.S. law enforcement agencies did not have any FISA orders to monitor the communications of Trump, either as a candidate or as a president-elect, or his campaign. But what Clapper must have, I would assume he knew this, is that the FBI, which is a U.S. law enforcement agency, did have a FISA order to monitor somebody who was working with the campaign. So when he said, so his language seems carefully crafted to like avoid talking about the specific circumstance in which there was a FISA order. So that was ridiculous to me. And then Comey's thing about saying we have nothing, no information to back up what President Trump's tweets were about. Well, fine, if you take his tweet literally and you say his tweet was literally about Obama personally wiretapping him at Trump Tower, you have nothing to back that up. But at that time, Comey did know when he said that there was a FISA warrant that was approved, and the FBI had been surveying from July until the end of the campaign this person who worked with the Trump campaign and presumably was talking to a lot of people from the Trump campaign. So this was going on. So this is the key aspect of the story to me that's not being covered, is that we kept hearing for the last month or so how just President Trump's accusation that there was some wiretapping of, the campaign going on was just ludicrous. There's no evidence for it whatsoever. And now the story says, it was in the Washington Post tonight, that the FBI requested a FISA warrant and they got it, and they were surveying this guy from July until the end of the campaign. And actually longer than that, because what we know is it was a 90-day warrant that started in July and it was renewed at least twice, which that's 270 days. That takes you well into the next year. Goes throughout the transition. So, it's fine if they want to say President Trump, literally speaking, was not saying something true in his tweets. But there was a much more general worry going on. Forget about what he said exactly in a tweet literally. There's this general worry that there was some wiretapping going on of the campaign, and we found out tonight that there was an FBI-ordered wiretap on this person, this American citizen who had been working in the Trump campaign and was presumably talking to the Trump campaign. Now, regardless of what this person was doing, and if you read the Washington Post article, the evidence, so to get this court order approved, to get this warrant approved, what they have to do is establish that there's probable cause that this person is a foreign agent, which means this person is working with a foreign entity to collect intelligence information in the United States, about the United States. But if you actually look at the evidence that this article talks about, it's like one piece of evidence is he met in 2016 with this Russian guy, and that evidence is supposedly based on this British dossier, and it says in the actual article, it says about this British dossier. Where can I find it? What does it say about the reliability of this dossier? Hold on, I'll tell you that. It's an exact quote from the article. I want to read it to you. It says, while in 2016, a Carter Page allegedly met with this guy who was a Putin confidant, blah, blah, blah. Now, it says it got this information came from this dossier compiled by a former British intelligence officer. But it says officials, and this is intelligence officials who are talking to the person who wrote this article. Officials said some of the information in the dossier has been verified by U.S. intelligence agencies, and some of the information in the dossier hasn't been verified by U.S. intelligence agencies, and other parts are unlikely to ever be proved or disproved. So that doesn't make a very compelling case for the reliability of this dossier. So there's that one piece of information. And then they also talk about how in 2013 he met this Russian person who was posing as a diplomat, but it turned out he was Russian intelligence. And we have no idea from this article if Carter Page even knew this person was in Russian intelligence. So anyways, if you read the article, maybe what they did is they went to the court and they said, hey, court, Carter Page has had a couple of meetings, we think, with these people who are Russian intelligence agents, and maybe that's enough to get the court to approve the wiretap, even though that isn't really showing Carter Page did that much. But regardless of what Carter Page did or didn't do, remember, the real issue here is, was there some surveillance of the campaign going on during the campaign? And, I don't know how this relates to the unmasking stuff. But Susan Rice ordered certain intelligence to be unmasked, and it's certainly possible that so Carter Page. Oh, and by the way, this stuff here wasn't. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that point. That's a technical point. My point is, Perhaps this is the perhaps Carter Page talked to a bunch of people in the campaign during the campaign, and that was some of these conversations where Susan Rice ordered the names of the people in the campaign who Carter Page was talking to unmasked. So this could relate to stuff that's been talked about and that people who support Trump have been worried about. But when I saw the reporting on the story tonight, so belatedly CNN started reporting on the story, but they weren't talking about any of the stuff I'm talking about. They were talking about, like, what is this show about how the campaign might have colluded with Russia? In no way did they talk about how this seemed to totally go against what James Clapper had said in To Meet the Press last week, and how it seemed to show that there's something there maybe is a kernel of truth in what President Trump was saying in his tweets. So I'm frustrated with the coverage of this, and it's certainly it suggests that there's more to this than the left was saying met the eye. And I know you've been making comments. I haven't been reading them because I've just been talking. But if you would like to, that's my little spiel on this thing. But if you would like to if you have any comments, feel free to write into me while I'm on the air. At Lookner on Twitter, you can reach me there. You can direct message me at Lookner on Twitter. I think somebody already wrote me, so I'll see what somebody said. Or you can email me at steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. Let's see here. Andrew Sova, you sent me a link. Oh, that was a while. You said, check out that link. I will, Andrew, when I'm off the air, if you're watching right now. And I want to make sure there's no other comments here. Claudia Shah wrote in, and that's why Comey isn't cooperating. He's going to get the boot too. That's what Claudia Shah said. Dina said, living room cozy. It is cozy in here. Let's see here. And now I have a second to look at your comments, actually, as you're writing your comments. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you, moderators, by the way, for moderating, as your usual great job moderating. So I just think this story, it's important because, we've listened for weeks to a lot of people in the media say how there's just nothing to what President Trump was saying and nothing to this wiretapping issue. And now we see this story come out and nobody reports on it. So... Carter Page, Bigley, you asked whether he was an employee or a consultant. So it's not clear from the article, but the article does say he attended several meetings for volunteer foreign policy advisors. That suggests that he wouldn't even be on the payroll. And he also, the article said he requested a number of times to meet with President Trump, but he never did. So even if it turns out that Carter Page was like trying to get information for the Russians in some sense, I have no idea. There's really no direct connection between him and President Trump. But it hasn't even been shown to me that he was really trying to do that. Carter Page, by the way, denies those charges and says he's happy to testify in front of Congress about this. I encourage you to look at the article in the Washington Post. It's on my Twitter. I tweeted it out and see for yourself. Let's see here. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. Or comments if you have any thoughts on this story. Well, Arlene, I will not be eating for you guys tonight. My eating is good. When I get off the air, I'm going to eat something. Thank you, Chase C. and Alberta, for your kind words. Appreciate it. Yeah, please subscribe. As Heart of Dixie says, subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. So I want to just get on the air and talk a little bit about this story. And it's annoying me that, we always hear negative things about Trump, and like we hear one side of the story, and then when something about the other side comes out, we don't hear about that nearly as much. So I wanted to give this story a little publicity. And I've been tweeting about it, as you can see if you follow me on Twitter. Hello, Daniel. How are you? Hello, Jason. How are you? Thank you, GM, so much. Cookie Mom, if you just got here, you can always rewind the stream and watch it when it's posted. And you should be able to rewind it right now. Jason says, we love Late Night with Lookner. Yeah, I thought it might be fun to have a late night stream tonight. We haven't done a late night stream in a while. So yeah, that's basically my thought on this. And I hope it's covered some. I didn't even see Fox News covering it tonight. I hope they ended up covering it, but it's I don't know. It's just annoying to me that I see this thing that I feel like shows that there was definitely some wiretapping going on of somebody who was working with the campaign. Let's see. I am looking at your comments as we speak. Jason says Comey needs to go. Pete Tudsbury writes in, Cernovich is right, and Mike Cernovich said, as NSA, Susan Rice would have had to concur in this request. I'm looking. See, I don't know about this. I mean, I'm not saying Mike Cernovich is wrong. What I'm saying is I don't know if the FBI makes a request, does the NSA have to concur with that? It seems possible to me that the FBI can make their own request and the NSA doesn't have to sign. The National Security Advisor doesn't have to sign off on that. I don't know. So I don't know. I'm looking at your... somebody sent me a message here. Solomon's Temple says, Carter is tip of iceberg. Dennis Montgomery, former NSA, gave FBI 47 hard drives of spying intel on the record. Comey has sat on it for 2 years. Our government has used intel for political purposes for a long time. Hillary kept access to write her book, wink, wink. Thank you, Solomon's Temple, for writing in. And I gotta say this. See, I think if Comey or Clapper had said on national TV when they were on national TV a couple weeks ago, well, we did request this FISA warrant on this person who was working for the campaign a little bit, at least a little bit, that would have been a kind of a big story. And then I think the media would have said, oh, well, I guess there was some wiretapping of the campaign going on. But they didn't say that. And now but when this exact same piece of information comes out tonight, no one reports on it that way. It's very selective. Arlene, I got this information. Go to my Twitter feed at Lookner at Lookner, and you'll see there's a Washington Post article. It's out tonight. It's in the Washington Post. Everything I talked about was in this article. Daniel says send the information to Fox News. I assume they have it. German Mike says bros insist we have a German bro here. I'm not sure who you're referring to, but people from Germany, as around the world, are welcome. I'm here for a few more minutes. If you want to ask any questions, have any thoughts on stuff. Let me also say this other sort of unrelated thing, which I'll talk about because who cares. I have seen some speculation about any kind of a possible... Son of Earth and Dusky, I'm going to try to read your question before it disappears. Do you think Page is an intentional plant by people trying to sabotage Trump? I don't know. I mean, at a certain point, for those kind of things to happen, like it's a lot. Just like a lot of. It's not such a simple theory. I always try to go with the more simpler theories, but anything is possible, I guess. I didn't really get to read your whole question, by the way, because you said it in the chat. When you say it in the chat, it goes by really fast. So if you want to, you can always send it to me on Twitter. But. So, Daniel, to answer your question, I'm going to Boston to visit family. I'm going to be there from Thursday to Sunday, but I will be on the air. I'll be able to do the pre-show and the post-show and come on the air from there. I might have to do it on my iPad, but I'll be around. And then tomorrow, I think I'm going to do the pre-show for the Spicer briefing, but not the post-show because I gotta go catch my flight. But I will be available and covering stuff. And also, I wonder if there's going to be anything going on with North Korea. I really do wonder that. That would be a huge deal if it happened, some kind of limited strike or to send a message or something. But we'll keep an eye on that. Jason Thornton says, used to live in Brighton, Mass. That was right next to me. I've been in Brighton many times, Jason. I'm just looking at more comments here, seeing if anyone has anything else to say. It's late night live stream. Stay on for a few more minutes. Finish the trim on my ceiling? It's not, I'm renting the apartment. It's not, I don't own it. What is my Twitter handle? My Twitter handle, thank you for asking corporate threads, is at Lookner, at Lookner. You can find me there on Twitter. And I tweeted a bunch about this earlier tonight. Greg says Comey has to go. Another point I should point out about this Washington Post story is that this was another case of leaked information. Somebody leaked this information. It's funny because the story says, the story has this quote about FISA warrants. What does it say? It's so funny. It's really dumb. Where is it? Maybe I can't find it. FISA requests... where is it? Well, anyways, they're supposed to be very secretive. But I believe FISA warrants are carefully guarded. But the fact that this was this information to me had to have been leaked to this Washington Post reporter. And, I would have to think that the person leaking this was trying to do it to get at Trump because they might think, oh, it makes President Trump look bad to show that there was a warrant to serve a person who worked for him. And presumably the warrant was to survey this person because they were having contacts with the Russians. But it's just another link from the intelligence community that might have been directed against President Trump. So that's a whole other thing going on. I actually think, though, the leak supports Trump in a way because it shows that there was something to this whole wiretapping claim. Ryan Ingram says, watch Snowden by Oliver Stone. I should watch it at some point. I have not watched it. Yeah, it is worrisome just the amount of leaks. I don't like them on either side, especially with this supposedly very sensitive information. I'm checking my Twitter, my notifications. No comments, though. So, Daniel, CNN reported it earlier tonight, but their whole roundtable was about, how does this show whether President Trump colluded with the Russians? Nothing about, how does this show that maybe there was actually wiretapping of the Trump campaign going on? And I don't think the mainstream media will report it that way, which is why I wanted to do this. Live stream. Thanks, Greg, for watching us since day one. Very much appreciated. Kenneth Brackett says, CNN is fake news. CNN, really hates Trump. Don Lemon hates Trump, and yet they continually keep having him on broadcasting the news about Trump. But he really does hate Trump. Hi, Rocky Mike. How are you? You just got the notification. That's too bad. Well, but it's YouTube, so you can go back and watch. You can go back and watch the rest of it. You can watch the earlier part. Jackie O says, or Jacqueline O says, Don Lemon is a punk. Are you planning to do streams late night soon, GM? Do you mean more late night streams? Because this is a late night stream. Do I think Attorney General Sessions will prosecute leakers? That's a good question, Jason. I don't know. I would think if they find out who leakers are from the intelligence community, they would prosecute them. Daryl Marshall, also not a fan of Don Lemon. Another thing I noticed in the mainstream media tonight is a lot of them were reporting on this Kansas election where the district is usually very pro-Republican district, and Republicans win it by 25-30%. It was Mike Pompeo's district, and tonight the guy running in the special election, because Mike Pompeo left to go work for Trump, he only won by how much did he win by? It was 6 or 7% last time I checked, but it was lower than the usual. But a number of people had reputable people who should know about these things had said, hey, you shouldn't really overly read into this because people were tying the Republican candidate there with Governor Sam Brownback, and people really hate Brownback. But there's some people in the media who are just totally ignoring that side of it and just saying this bodes so well for Democrats. It's so bad for Republicans, and they're ignoring other people they're ignoring this whole other point of view, which is actually it's not necessarily so bad for Republicans. Pete Tudsbury says, this was an important presentation. I'm very glad you're doing it. You're getting better and better at it. No, thank you, Pete Tudsbury. Thank you. Thank you, Pete Tudsbury, for saying that. Somebody I just saw said turnout was low, too. Rocky Mike, you were scared about a possible war against North Korea tonight. Don't know what's going to happen to that. We've heard some rhetoric coming out of the Trump administration, but you don't know. He seems like a guy who he's not going to telegraph what he does. So we'll see what happens on that. No, JC, no word on another Trump rally. We hope there's one soon. We really do. We hope there's a bunch soon, but no word yet. I hope there's some soon. Hey, Beaver wrote from Australia. How you doing, Beaver? I can't even imagine what time it is there, but thank you for writing. Thanks, Kenneth. Now, I'm hearing my feed is coming out. I doubt it's on my end. Now, maybe I'm wrong about this, but if it was on, if I'm getting a bad signal on my end, my iPad will say bad signal, and I have a good Wi-Fi connection. I'm right next to it, so I know YouTube was having problems today. I couldn't even in the office watch some of the Spicer press briefing because there was YouTube issues. So the YouTube issues are affecting some people and not others. And JC says a refresh fixes it. Light switch. And Wade say feed here is great. I'm looking at more. Oh, somebody sent me a message. Let's see here. Andrew says, Andrew, you sent me something that says that the missiles are, a quote from someone who said that the missiles are called Tomahawks must enrage a lot of Native Americans. And I guess the person was saying that seriously, and you do not agree that they should be enraged about this, or that this person should be worrying about this. Thank you, Andrew, for writing in. John Hewitt, you can put John Hewitt on the Fire James Comey list. Oh, let's see here. I got another message. Solomon's Temple said Trump stood up to neocons on Syria regime change. That's a big deal. Thanks for Solomon for writing in. Because it's late night, I'm not enforcing the stay on topic as much as I would normally enforce it. When I'm silent like this, that means I'm just reading your comments. David B says, hope RSBN is successful. Enjoy listening to you and all the other hosts. Thank you, David B. We hope we're successful too. We're really trying. Cookie Mom, to answer your question, Carter Page never met with Donald Trump. He asked to a number of times, never actually met with him. That was what I saw in the Washington Post story tonight. Did they talk on the phone? I don't know. I haven't heard anything saying that they actually had contact with each other. You're welcome, JM. Yeah, I just wanted to report this because I thought it was an important story, and no one was reporting it that way. And the people who were reporting it were spinning it a different way, and I thought this was an important aspect of the story to talk about. I'm going to stay on a few more minutes because soon I need to go to bed so I can get up and go to work and then travel tomorrow. You're welcome, Lily. Lily, it sounds like you were thinking similar to me on this story, and yeah, that's you're welcome for reporting it. Yeah, Cookie Mom, it sounded like his campaign ties with the campaigner were not that strong. Like he might have been volunteering. Do I think North Korea will launch another missile? I've heard a lot of speculation that they will launch one on April 15th. That is some big anniversary for them. I can't remember what anniversary it is, but it's a big day there, and I have heard rumors that they will or do a nuclear test on April 15th. That seems to be the day people are focusing on. Juliet says, talk about North Korea. No, please, Juliet, just ordering me to talk about North Korea. But I will say, yeah, I mean, it's, as I said earlier on a broadcast earlier today when we were covering the Spicer briefing, look, with the Spicer briefing, with Syria, we heard there was a chemical attack. We heard a bunch of rhetoric from the campaign. Rhetoric's the wrong word, but we heard a bunch of harsh talk from the administration saying we're not going to put up with this and seeming to suggest there was going to be an attack. And then there was an attack. And we've heard similar language about North Korea saying we're done talking about them. If China doesn't do it, we'll take care of it. So and President Trump showed with the Syria thing, he doesn't have to take a long time to act, and he's not afraid to use the military. So we will see, but I wouldn't be surprised to see something with happening with North Korea. I don't think President Trump will do nothing about it, put it that way. What I don't think will happen is, 4 years from now, President Trump hasn't done anything, and like they just have developed their program more. Something will happen either way with this language that President Trump and people in the administration have been using, and also clearly his commitment to, he's willing to use the military if need be. So I don't know what will happen, but something very well might happen, and maybe soon. I did watch the Spicer press conference today. I was covering it, so I did watch it. I do think the whole thing about his Spicer said he's sorry about the Hitler comment. I don't think it was really what he wanted to say, but it's just one of these things where it's like the Nunes thing. It's just another giant waste of both media and media viewers' time and energy that would be much better spent on talking about real issues that affect Americans. Like, for example, someone called in on our post show today and talked about H-1B visas. That's a very important issue. It's never talked about in the news. It's never covered, and it's a very important issue. You said, Rocky Mike, you know people on a base, cousins that are on standby. Sorry, these quotes are going by fast. Thank you, RL, so much. Who do I want to win the French election, Juliet asks. It's this weird thing where I don't know I've read some about Le Pen. I don't know how to pronounce it. Let's say Le Pen. But it's like, I don't keep up that much with French politics. So, it's hard for me to say, do I want Le Pen or the person she's running against, because I know so little about that election. So the best thing I can say is I don't know, because I would like to know more about candidates. JC liked how I tried to pronounce Le Pen's name in French. By the way, I would recommend to you, there's a great Twitter account called, I think, Marine in English. Is that what it's called? And you can read, somebody translates all of Marine Le Pen's tweets, and they just put them in English. It's called Marine in English. It's at Marine 2017 at Marine 2017 _EN. I'll show you. Look, this is Marine in English. My recommendation. See if they can do this. See Marine in English, and all the account does is take her tweets and change them into English. So if you're interested in Marine in English, go to find that on Twitter and then subscribe to it. It's a way to keep up with her tweets. See? Hey Jug, I'm not going to repeat the whole story, but go back and watch the start of the video. And you can hear it all. Yeah, if somebody wants to type that name, it's at Marine 2017 _EN. I don't know, Juliet, I don't know enough about the candidates. That's my honest answer to you. Jack, no way. I understand that you don't want war, and I understand that position. Carol follows her. Oh, Jug, thank you for subscribing. I don't know if you mean me or YouTube, but or RSBN, but feel free to subscribe to both. RSBN on Twitter is at RSB Network. You're welcome, Juliet. The wiretapping, I don't know where it happened. It depends on where Carter Page was hanging out. You're welcome, Jack. Oh, another story that didn't get reported on at all, barely, in America today, which was actually an important story, was this terrorist attack, apparently, on, the German soccer team, where an a bomb exploded next to their bus and, hurt one of their players. But in America, they hardly reported that at all, that I saw, at least. Thank you, David B., for showing that, that address for the account. I Stand With Trump wrote in, question, do you think President Trump will do something to help the family of the young man who is being imprisoned in Korea for stealing a banner? I either don't know about the story or knew and don't remember about it. So that's another one of these things I will have to look up. And being imprisoned in North Korea, I would assume, not South Korea. So I'll have to look that up. I Stand With Trump. Sorry, I don't know more about this. John, your quote, your comment just flew past, so I didn't get to read it. I have never seen Zeitgeist on Netflix. Interesting theory, by the way. If you hadn't heard this, I heard people debating about it on Twitter tonight. The theory was Donald Trump can't fire Bannon because if he fires Bannon, Bannon goes back to Breitbart and makes it anti-Trump. Now, I have no idea if there's any truth to any of this, but that was a theory some people were talking about. Ryan, I will put Zeitgeist on my list. Ryan, what is Zeitgeist about? Son of Earth and Dusky, Son of Earth and Sky, you think China's not going to stand in our way with North Korea because we owe them lots of money. I don't know. It's so hard to say. I mean, there's arguments for them. I mean, they don't. The problem is China doesn't want North Korea to collapse and have tons of refugees, and China doesn't want North Korea to collapse and for the whole peninsula there, all of Korea, to become like South Korea and like this democracy that is closer to the U.S. They don't want that. It's very sensitive to them because it's so close to them. So that's a big problem there. Oh, you reposted John's question. Thank you, Son of Earth and Sky. Do I think Trump can force DNC to let the FBI examine their servers? Can he force the DNC? What would he be looking for in the DNC? I don't think he can. I mean, unless they would have to like committed a crime, or it has to be. You can't just go on the DNC servers and search them. But if there's some evidence they committed a crime, that would be the only way he could do it, I would think. Goldie says that's why, so you think that China put soldiers on the border of North Korea to keep the refugees out. But I haven't had that confirmed yet. That I heard this rumor that China put all those soldiers on the border, but had no confirmation yet. I bet our intelligence knows with their satellites, but I don't own any satellites, so I can't tell. The video of the guy dragged off the plane, I did see it, RL, and my thought was, something I tweeted yesterday was, it looked to me like the problem could have been that the cops who dragged the person off the plane did a bad job of it and they were too violent with the person, and that they were really at fault and not the airline. Now, I know people say, well, United was at fault for overbooking, but all the airlines do that. They overbook like 50,000 people. Like 50,000 people a year, I read, get kicked off their planes, which is crazy in America for overbooking. So that's more of an industry thing, but I think it's certainly now United's PR response to it was terrible. But I think in terms of the actual action, it could have really just been one police officer who messed up, and that could have caused this big uproar. That was at least my thought. Yeah, Lily, it's that kind of thing where because it was in Europe and because only one person was injured and no one died, and because people here it was about soccer and people don't appreciate like how big that soccer game they were going to was and how big the Champions League is, you just didn't hear about it here. I did see the officer was suspended. That doesn't help United though. All right, few more minutes. I would love to stay on longer, but I got to go to bed. Juliet, I don't know when the wall will be built. What do I think about the school shooting in San Bernardino, said Daniel Garcia. Looks like it was just a very unfortunate case of domestic violence. A guy shot his wife. And it's awful that he shot his wife, and it's awful that he shot his wife so indiscriminately in a school that other people got hurt. You're welcome, JC. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate all your guys' hard work as moderators and everybody tuning in. I love all your comments and answering your questions. This is a group activity. We need bumper stickers. I will pass that along. Good night from Alberta, says Wade. Good night. Thank you, Ryan. You're welcome, David. You're welcome, Semper. Thank you all for tuning in and asking questions and commenting. Okay, I think everybody's saying good night, so I'm going to say good night as well. I'll say my good night. I appreciate you all tuning in. Panhandle, you're welcome. Goldie, have a good night. Let's see. We should host debates. That'd be nice to host a debate. Yeah, somebody posted about donating, so I don't have to repeat the information about how to donate, but if in the future you want to donate, we appreciate it because you do keep us on the air. We are doing our best to stay on the air and do more coverage for you. Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Jug and Light Switch and Kenneth. Thank you. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Sully's World. Have a good night, Benjamin. Have a good night, Arnold. I'm sorry if I missed a few people there. Good night, Dawn. Thank you. Good night, audio for video. Good night, Jacqueline. Good night, Jason, Goldie, Heart of Dixie. Good night, Kijo, Linda. Thank you. Good night, Rocky. Good night, Beaver in Australia. Good night, JC. Son of Earth and Sky. Good night. 79 Ninzombie. Have a good night. Bye, German Mike. Bye, Jake C. Bye, Goldie Bood. Bye, Poslam. Bye, Gail. Bye, Daniel. Bye, John. You're welcome. Bye, Jason again. Bye, Russell. Bye, Very Fake News. I was looking Very Fake News to see if the CNN actually said Very Fake News. Definitely not Jitif. What did you miss? You'll have to rewind the video and see. Bye, Heart of Dixie. Bye, Cookie Mum. Bye, GM. Bye, Dan Wolf. It's all right. Stever is fine, Dan. Bye, Wade. Oh, definitely not. Give it a shot. Bye, Pride and Prejudice. Hello from Michigan. Have a good night from Michigan. Bye. I'm not from Michigan. I'm in Alabama. Bye, Roses Star Bright. Yes, as JC says, when this is over, you go to 24-hour-7 chat. Bye, Juliet. Thanks for the questions. Bye, Ken. Definitely not. You got to power through and do it. I think we're about out of the goodbyes. So, thank you all for joining at the chat. Oh, bye, Reject Society. Bye, Ken. So thank you all for joining on the live chat. Really appreciate you joining and watching and sending in your comments. Very interesting as always. I will see you tomorrow. If Sean Spicer has a briefing, I will see you for the pre-show tomorrow. And have a great night. Enjoy the 24/7 chat, those of you who go over there. Goldie, yeah, I got to go to bed. I got to eat something too. It's a whole thing. All right, I got to finish packing too. All right, have a great night, guys. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. Bye.